Rich men don't get revenge by making noise. They get revenge by making things quietly disappear. My name is Nathan Cole. I own 3 companies, a private club, and a penthouse apartment on the 41st floor. When people visit for the first time and see the view from my window, they always go quiet. Just stand there and stare. I built all of it myself. No inheritance. No shortcuts. Just 15 years of hard work, early mornings, and smart decisions. I'm telling you this so you understand what was on the line. And so you understand why, when I found out my wife was lying to me, I didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't throw anything across the room. I just sat down quietly and started planning. Her name is Victoria. I met her at a charity dinner 8 years ago. She was standing near the window in a black dress, holding a glass of champagne, looking at the city like she already owned it. I thought she was confident. I know now she was just hungry for a better life. We got married 2 years later. She was smart, charming, and beautiful. I loved her genuinely. I gave her access to everything, our joint bank accounts, my company credit cards, introductions to important people I had spent years getting to know. I did all of that because I trusted her completely. That was my only mistake. It started with a restaurant receipt. My assistant accidentally forwarded it to me thinking it was a routine expense. The restaurant was a place I recognized right away. Expensive, quiet, private. Victoria and I had gone there once for our 4th wedding anniversary. The bill was for 2 people. The date was last Thursday. I was in Dubai last Thursday for a business meeting. I sat at my desk and stared at that receipt for a long time. I didn't call Victoria. I didn't call the restaurant. I just forwarded the receipt to my private email, closed my laptop, and looked out the window for a while. Then I called Garrett. Garrett runs security for me. He has worked with me for 6 years. He is the kind of man who understands that some conversations stay between us and nobody else. I need records, I told him. Building entry logs, car bookings, the guest list from the club. Everything from the last 90 days. By when? He asked. Tonight, I said. He had everything on my desk by 4 in the afternoon. I stayed at the office after everyone went home and read through every single page. Slowly. Like I was reading a contract I already suspected was hiding something bad. His name was Christopher Hale. 34 years old. He worked at an investment firm across the city. Victoria had introduced him to me at a dinner 3 months ago. She said he was a sharp businessman worth knowing. I shook his hand and said nice to meet you and thought nothing of it. He had used my personal car booking service 11 times in 90 days. Always from the same pickup spot 2 blocks from our building. Always on evenings when I was away traveling. Never once when I was home. I made a new folder on my private laptop. I named it, Documentation. Then I went home, had dinner with Victoria, and asked about her day. She told me a funny story and laughed and I laughed too. She looked completely relaxed. She had no idea I knew anything. Perfect, I thought. Let's keep it that way for now. Here is something most people don't understand about wealthy people. The money itself is not the power. The real power is the invisible structure built around the money. The legal agreements, the ownership records, the account controls that nobody thinks about until the day they suddenly matter. Victoria had access to a lot. Monthly transfers, company credit cards, and a joint investment account we had been building together for 6 years. She spent freely and never hit any limits, so she never had reason to wonder what happened beyond those limits. What she didn't know was that every account above normal day-to-day spending needed my digital approval to move a single dollar. She thought she lived in a house she owned. She never once checked whose name was on the door. I called my lawyer Diana on Wednesday morning. I met her at her office in person and brought my documentation folder, printed out and organized neatly by date. She read through everything carefully. When she finished, she looked up at me. "How do you want to handle this?" she asked. "Completely," I said. "And quietly. No drama." She nodded like that was the only answer she expected from me. We spent 2 hours going through everything together. My personal assets were already protected under the prenuptial agreement Victoria had signed before our wedding 7 years ago. She had signed it and apparently never thought about it again. The joint investment account was reviewed carefully. I had put in 81% of the total money over the years. The records were all there, clear as day. Diana prepared one document. Not an angry letter. Just one clean, simple page listing the prenuptial terms, the account structure, and the contribution amounts. Facts only. No emotion. When should I send it? She asked. I'll let you know, I said. I said nothing to Victoria for 2 full weeks. I came home every evening at my normal time. We had dinner together. I asked about her day and actually listened to the answers. We went to a charity event together on Saturday and I held her hand walking in and smiled for photos and introduced her to people the same way I always had. Warm. Normal. Completely relaxed. She had no reason to worry. But while everything looked normal on the outside, I was working quietly underneath the surface. Making small moves. No noise. No drama. I made 3 phone calls during those 2 weeks. The first was to a senior contact at Christopher's firm. I didn't accuse anyone of anything. I simply mentioned in a casual, friendly tone that I would be stepping back from some potential business we had discussed. He asked if everything was okay. I said personal circumstances were changing. He understood. In a small circle of wealthy professionals, word travels fast. It would reach Christopher's ears soon enough. The second call was to the director of the charity board Victoria sat on. She had gotten that position through my introduction 2 years ago. I told the director, with a regretful tone, that Victoria's schedule was likely going to become very unpredictable soon and the board might want to think about their options. The director was a smart woman. She understood exactly what I meant without me having to say it directly. The third call was the simplest one. I called my private club. Victoria had a platinum membership card. She used it twice a week for lunches and dinners in the best dining room in the building. Suspend her membership, I said. Pending account review. No explanation needed to anyone. Of course, Mr. Cole, the membership manager said. No announcement. No argument. No scene. 3 things simply and quietly disappeared from her life. Everything came apart on a Friday evening. Victoria came home earlier than usual. One look at her face told me everything. That tight, controlled expression of someone who spent the afternoon running into locked doors where open ones used to be. She walked straight to the drinks cabinet and poured herself something. I watched her hand pause for just a second before she picked up the glass. My club card was declined today, she said without turning around. Account review, I said calmly from the sofa. Routine. She turned and looked at me. Something shifted behind her eyes. Margaret called me today, she said carefully. Margaret was the charity board director. She said they might need to change my role on the board. That's too bad, I said. The room was quiet. The city glittered outside the window 41 floors below. Nathan. Her voice was steady, but I could hear how hard she was working to keep it that way. Is there something going on that I should know about? I put down the book I was holding. I looked at her directly for the first time in 2 weeks without hiding anything. Christopher Hale used our car service 11 times in the last 90 days, I said in a calm, flat voice. Always when I was traveling. The restaurant receipt from last Thursday is in a folder with 60 days of records and financial documents. Diana has copies of everything, including the prenuptial you signed in this building 7 years ago. The color drained from her face slowly. Nathan, I'm not angry, I said. And I meant it completely. I'm done. Those are 2 very different things. She tried everything. She explained. She minimized. She cried. She apologized. She said it meant nothing and was already finished. I sat still and let her say every single word without interrupting her once. Not because I was being cruel. Because I had already had every version of this conversation with myself during those 2 quiet weeks. Alone at my desk late at night, standing at the window while she slept. I had already felt everything there was to feel and I had already made every decision there was to make. When she finally went quiet, I said, the prenuptial is straightforward. Diana will call you Monday morning. Everything will be divided exactly according to what we both agreed before we got married. She stared at me like she was looking at a stranger. I didn't think you would actually go through with, she started. I know, I said quietly. That was your mistake. She was out of the penthouse within 3 weeks. The settlement followed the prenuptial agreement exactly. Fair, clean, and much less than she had been quietly planning on for herself across 8 years of building dreams on someone else's foundation. The company cards were cancelled. The club membership was permanently closed. The social connections, the board position. The introductions to rooms that took me years to earn, all of it faded away quietly, the way anything built on borrowed ground always eventually does. I heard through mutual contacts that Christopher had moved on to someone new within 6 weeks of everything falling apart. Victoria did not take that news well at all. But that was no longer my problem. Diana told me over coffee after everything was finalized that I was the most organized and prepared client she had ever handled a case for. You didn't leave a single gap anywhere, she said. I had time to think, I said simply. I still live in the penthouse. The view is the same. People still go quiet when they see it for the first time. I built all of this from nothing before and I know exactly what I am capable of building again. What I think about sometimes, late at night when the city is dark and still below me, is not the betrayal. Betrayal hurts but it passes. It hurts and then it makes everything clear and then it slowly fades. What I think about is that moment at my desk with the restaurant receipt in front of me. The stillness before I made a single move. The cold calm decision forming quietly in my chest. No shouting. No confrontation. No dramatic scene. Just a folder, a few phone calls, and 2 careful weeks of making things quietly disappear. She married me for the life I built. She forgot that the men who build something once will always know how to build it again and how to take it back. Some people cry when life betrays them. Some people plan. Which one are you? Tell me in the comments. Like and follow for more powerful stories.